Good evening, race fans. Welcome here to Zandvoort over in the Netherlands for tonight's Jack Vandeberg 100. My name is Robert Hill Jr. Joining me up here in the booth tonight is Zach Evans. Zach, welcome to the Rebilas Photography Grand National Series.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. Stepping in for Chris tonight is, I guess he had something to do down south this week. I don't know what's up with that. I can't figure out what could be going on. But I'm here in the booth tonight, hanging out with you, Robert, and we're gonna watch these guys try to get around this tricky road course this evening.
We're going to watch these guys struggle is what we're going to do here tonight. Has been a very interesting practice session to watch as the drivers learn how to navigate their way around this circuit. And as you can see on the screen, this track 2.62 miles, track temperature 114 degrees Fahrenheit. So rather warm racetrack here tonight. And as you can see, the race name tonight is the Jack Vandeberg 100. Tonight we race in honor of our driver Dustin Dewar's late uncle, passed away suddenly on Saturday at the age of 83. So on behalf of all of us here at the Elite Racing Network, we want to pass on our condolences to the Dewar and Vandeberg families on the sudden loss of Jack. And tonight we'll race in his honor here, Zach, for 38 laps around this circuit. Tonight, halfway point, end of lap number 19. And these drivers will have 3 sets of tires as we're going to work our way around and do a full pace lap here. Let's take a look at tonight's starting grid. On the pole, it's Tyler Fody alongside R.C. Enerson in row number 1. Row 2, Ethan Stanley and Chase Cabre make up row number 2 here. David Tooker, William White in row 3. Scott Crump and Hunter Smith in row 4. Rounding out the top 10, Ethan Burrell and Vincent Isabella.
Starting in 11th, we have a Leighton Norgard. Tommy Ryan lined up alongside him in row 6. Gavin Hibbs and Chad Frankenfield on row 7. A little further back than we usually see Chad at the road courses. Tate Lytle and Seth Rawls in row 8. Gerald Campbell starting 17th. Tyler Pop 18th. Ty McIntosh lined up 19th. Jesse Racimus rounding out the top 20.
Just behind them in row number 11, it's David Carpenter alongside Jay Connor. Row 12 tonight, Gavin Higgins and Kynan Jones. Andrew McCall and Dustin Dewar make up row number 13. Row 14 is Brent Jones and Brandon Key with the top 30. Rounding out here, Jeff Ryan and Michael Goodman.
After that, we have Carlos Acosta. He'll be happy to be part of tonight's field, starting 31st. Josh Adams, 32nd. Connor Thompson, 33rd. Mark Rebilas, 34th. Rory Collins, 35th. Michael Hossack, 36th. And Harrison Talon, starting shotgun in tonight's 37-car field.
Some unfortunate news from the grid. Looks like we have already lost William White. He was slated to start in position number 6 tonight, and he is currently pit side. Looks like he has returned, so he's going to wait for the initial start and start there from pit road.
Definitely a tough break. If you have to have it happen, a road course in some ways is a good place, in some ways a bad place. You don't lose as much ground relative to the group. You know you're going to catch up to a lot of slower guys pretty quickly if they're not very good at road course racing. Just to put it bluntly, I'm not good at road course racing. I can say that. But also you're way less likely to get a caution to get caught back up to the pack. So it's kind of a catch-22. Definitely a tough break for William.
Absolutely. He's put a lot of practice in here so far today and this week leading into tonight's race. So watch for him to still potentially work his way back up through the field. Of course, strategy going to come into play at some point. We can't rule out a full course caution if there's a track blocker out there. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, as I believe we're getting set to go green here momentarily. Pace car should be going off shortly.
Yep, final 2 corners here for the pace car.
Once again, Tyler Fody and R.C. Enerson, 2 of the road course aces here, fixing to roll off from that front row. You see the iRacing pace car. He's going to get set to make the turn to pit road here very, very shortly and set this field free for what should be an action-packed race here tonight. 38 laps. Should take us just over an hour and 10 minutes or so. As now you do see pit road there, the pace car. Well, he's going to take the turn down, and we are getting set to go green. We'll see what the field does this time. Will we get through turn number 1 clean? Will we have carnage? We are green in the Jack Vandeberg 100.
Already you see Ethan Stanley looking to the inside. Tyler Fody as to go off into the first corner, and he might get an advantage here as they head down towards turns 2 and 3. Turn 3, this banked left-hander, one of the renovated corners when they brought this track up to standard for the Dutch Grand Prix to make its return, but Fody pulling back out front.
As of right now, it is Tyler Fody ahead of Ethan Stanley. R.C. Enerson has fallen back to third with Chase Cabray and David Tooker just behind him. So far, the field looks like they're taking it easy, trying to give each other a little bit of space on the racetrack, not get involved. And as I say that, it looks like Harrison Talon gonna have himself a moment. We're gonna get that track cleared up. Josh Adams involved in that one. Mark Rebilas may have gotten a piece as well. Let's take a quick look on the Rebilas photography replay machine and see what happened with the 51 of Talon. Well, he's just gonna send it a little bit too deep into the back of that one machine of Josh Adams.
Yep, just pretty much drove it to the back of him. Mark Rebilas gets caught up in that in the 99 car as well. Definitely not a good start to the race, especially for those guys who had nothing to do with that.
Absolutely. Just unfortunate there as you see Harry work his way back to pit road. He's going to pick up his first tally of the day here on lap number 1.
So now we look at Tyler Fody working his way through that final corner down the front stretch. Those final 2 corners are got to be so pivotal for guys. Getting that run down this long straightaway as much speed as you can without missing this first corner. It's got to be really tricky, but also very critical for these guys all day long.
Definitely going to be a tricky track, and like you mentioned, that set of corners in particular offering a unique challenge to these drivers as we see Fody working his way through. Ty McIntosh has himself a moment. He's going to go around. We'll see what just happened to him.
So this is working his way through turn number 1. Too much beans?
Yeah,
as
just
Carlos
a solo
would say?
spin.
Yeah.
Too much beans indeed. Unfortunately, we do not have the clip from The Office to play here.
You hate to see that. And you also hate to see that for Ty McIntosh.
Yeah, absolutely. Ty put a lot of practice in here earlier. Today was one of the first ones into the server and spent quite a bit of time trying to sort this out. Of course, a tough track for these guys tonight, something they're not necessarily used to, but one thing I've noticed on the racetrack is these guys are really giving each other a fair bit of space. I don't know if that's just they're not as quick as the other cars around them or if they're trying to be safer at this point, but only time will tell as these guys will continue to duke it out. We're going to ride on board here with Ethan Stanley just behind the Tyler Fody machine. Fody leading us here on lap number 2. These guys doing a nice job and already seeing a little bit of brake glow on that 92 of Ethan Stanley. So these guys are hard on the brakes here tonight, Zach.
Oh, definitely. A lot of hard braking areas like this first corner, even the third corner, the S curve in turns 11 and 12. Lots of places where you got to really be on the brakes to get the car, A, to slow down, and B, to turn. Getting around this tricky circuit. Really just kind of an odd track to put these stock cars around.
Yeah, that would have been the decision of this man right here on your screen. That's Chad Frankenfield. He has a tendency of trying out different tracks, doing a little bit of R&D for NASCAR, letting them know what works and what doesn't. And we'll see if this one does work. Is Michael Hosick gonna go way off the racetrack? Looks like he had a bit of a moment with the wall as his left side is all sorts of scuffed up. He's gonna rejoin the field though, now in position 31 as Josh Adams has yet another incident on the racetrack. Take another peek at this one, see what just happened to Josh. I believe once again, the bean's going to come into play, and he's just going to send it a little bit too deep and go for a bit of a ride. So Adams not having the greatest day so far. He definitely would not say that he's a road course ace himself.
Certainly not, and that gets really tricky with tracks like this. You know, you go to Watkins Glen, or you go to Sonoma, or even nowadays the Roval, and most of these guys have turned enough laps to figure out how to get around the place. They may not still be skilled road course racers, but they at least know how to get around the track. Whereas this is just a complete curveball, and you mentioned, of course, it's something we see from time to time in Elite. The Cup Series going to Brands Hatch this season. The Truck Series that I usually announce on Sunday nights going to Sebring and Virginia International Raceway this season. Definitely a lot of those wild cards here in the 2024 ACs as we see some agricultural racing there from Josh Adams.
He's going to have to invoice this racetrack for all the landscape work he's done. But watching this battle up front, looks like the top three all starting to come together a little bit. Ethan Stanley up to the rear end of Tyler Fode. RC Enerson to the rear end of Ethan Stanley. Not too far behind them, another few of our road course masters here. Chase Cabre and David Tooker. Hunter Smith also having a very solid night here tonight, currently in position number 6. He's no slouch on these road courses either.
Oh no, Hunter is a guy I've raced with, I mean, not just in Elite, but also from time to time in, believe it or not, the pavement sprint cars. Look, I don't know how much of that translates to hustling an Xfinity car around a road course, but I guarantee you one thing that does translate: throttle control. That's going to be huge for these guys tonight with all these low-speed corners, and Hunter's going to be okay in that department, I promise.
Absolutely. I used to love the pavement sprint cars, especially when I first started on iRacing, driving through the infield at Charlotte Motor Speedway, going to the little concession stand in the pit area and just trying to do wheelies with that car. It was always a good time.
Looked like there was somebody off in the gravel trap there as the leaders went by, fortunately out of harm's way. Is that Carlos?
That is indeed Carlos Acosta.
Hate to see that for Carlos. I know he is probably pretty excited, like I say, be a part of the field tonight. Qualifying has been a bit of an issue for Carlos this season so far.
He's just gotten so unlucky, Zach.
So unlucky. Yeah, I mean, I was right there with him at Daytona. We both failed to make the field for that one. I barely worked my way into the show at Fontana last week.
It's so tough when you have so many drivers showing up for each and every race. We're sending home 10, 15, sometimes even 20, such as Daytona, in a certain race weekend, or race day, I guess I should say, that it gets really tough to make it in. And, you know, especially on the Cup side, I know Carlos is, I believe he's finally made a show. He actually, no, he might not have yet, but it's so hard when you don't have a charter because you're only going against 15 other people for 2-3 spots in the field. It definitely gets tough.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about how tough it was, especially at Daytona. Let's remember, the first guy out at Daytona for the season opener here in the Grand National Series is running third right now.
Yeah, no, that's actually a great point. Yeah, RC Enerson was on the outside looking in, multi-time winner. I believe he has a championship in Elite as well, and he was on the outside looking in, didn't make it into the race. As we are going to go side by side, yes we will. It's Ethan Stanley on the inside, Tyler Fode on the outside. Now they're going to drag race here, see who has the advantage. It looks like Ethan Stanley going to take the spot over Tyler Fode.
Ethan Stanley won 2 road course races with this series last season. Tyler Fode won the other one. Stanley trying to add to that tally here tonight.
Ethan Stanley has really come onto the scene in the last year or so. He went from a driver that had maybe 1 victory in Elite to picking up, I believe it was 11 in 2023. He absolutely came alive, stomped the field in the Pit Pass Network ARCA series en route to winning the championship, and then it just took off everywhere else. Tate Lytle just had himself an off-track moment. He's collected it. Tommy Ryan going to go off right behind him, playing a little bit of monkey see, monkey do here, as now Ryan going to rejoin the field.
You know, one thing that's kind of unique, especially when you consider, oh, and now we see that's Ty McIntosh taking the tow back to pit road. One thing that's kind of unique, especially considering this is a Formula One track, is not a lot of paved runoff here like you normally see at those Formula One tracks. There's pretty much, if you go across the line, there is no exceeding track limits. There's just, you're in the grass or you're in the dirt, and that's definitely a big factor and a big challenge here tonight.
Yeah, as we ride on board here with our race leader, Ethan Stanley, you just saw Michael Hosick take it pit side. We saw him in the wall earlier today, now finds himself headed towards his pit box. But yeah, you mentioned there that there's not a lot of paved runoff. No, it's either grass or gravel here, and these drivers not really having the opportunity to gather it up and go for that charge as we watch these drivers just continue to duke it out for position. It's Fody and Enerson, as well as Tooker and Cabre. Cabre now back to position number 5. That's another guy that's going to be down in Daytona here soon, getting set to kick off that Xfinity Series season with his fiancee Haley Deegan. Should be a good season for her.
You know, that's one of the neat things about Elite. You know, you've got R.C. Enerson, who's been in the IndyCar Series, Chase Cabre, plenty of racing exploits in his own right, not to
Absolutely. Multi-time K&N Series winner.
So, you know, we see that from time to time, you know, across the board in Elite. I mean, you can see guys like Jeff Green here from time to time. I'm sure he decided he had no interest in running a road course tonight. But
I guarantee that. I absolutely guarantee he decided this was his drop week right from the time that schedule came out. But like you mentioned, R.C. Enerson, Indy 500 driver, going to make the attempt again this year. Chase Cabre, multi-time NASCAR winner at the local ARCA level. Now I guess it's ARCA East and West is what they call it, rather than K&N as it was before. We've seen Dale Jr. here. We see Mark Rebilas on the racetrack right now. He was running on the field at the Super Bowl last night.
yes, that's
not as a player.
Different.
Not as a player.
He wasn't suiting up. He didn't get a ring last night. He wasn't wearing pads. But no, it still absolutely, and he does great work. Listen, whether it's when he goes to the, like you say, the Super Bowl or the sporting events, or does a lot of NHRA photography work, really incredible stuff he puts out.
Yeah, absolutely. Check out RebilasPhoto.com. See some of his work as Ethan Stanley goes off the racetrack. Ooh. He is pushing those track limits here, Zach.
I guarantee you he was puckered up a little bit as he was feeling those left side tires dragging across the dirt. There we have a car around. Andrew McCall is going to get pointed back in the right direction, but that's going to cost him a few spots.
Yeah, McCall, one of the rookies for Apollo Racing this season, working his way up through the Pit Pass Network ARCA Series. This is one of his first starts here in the Grand National Series, and not going the way he might have expected, but I mean, actually, it could be going exactly how we expected, because these drivers came in here with such unknown, coming to a track that I don't think any of them have ever run with a stock car before.
I'd be very surprised if any of these guys. Oh, and now we have, that's Jay Connor turned around. Didn't quite catch who took the tow that was inside his passenger door when we first cut to that.
Yeah, we're going to take a look and see what just happened here. Not sure who was involved in that. Kynan Jones, I believe, does get a piece. Jay goes around. Kynan gets into him. William White goes to his inside. He actually doesn't take a tow. Kynan's had connection issues here tonight, and is able to continue on, as Jay Connor now having some connection issues.
I believe Kynan passed on the Australian internet to Jay after he made contact with it.
Quite possible there, As well, we're going to watch Dave Carpenter here for a moment, currently running in position number 19. Shout out to him. He's done a nice job here so far, just staying steady Eddie there in the middle of the field.
And this is the kind of racing that really plays to Dave's strengths. Like you say, steady, keep the car on the track. He's maybe not as quick as these guys like Ethan Stanley or Tyler Fode, but he's definitely a skilled road course racer. Kind of guy that he'll hang around here and just watch guys continue to drive off the track in front of him and just pick up spots, and come to the end of the night, he might be hanging around 12th, 13th place.
That's exactly it. He does a fair bit of road course racing himself, takes part in the 24-Hour of Lemons series. See him from time to time going out there with whatever they put together, having himself a good time. And he's one of those guys, like you said, he might not be the quickest, might not be at the front every time we go to these road courses, but he's going to be in the car at the end, still with an opportunity at a half-decent finish, as we're going to watch Gerald Campbell here, host of the Simply Racing podcast. We see him Wednesday nights calling the Cup Series, as we have lost Chase Cabry. Not sure if he's left the server or having connection issues, but he has disappeared from timing and scoring.
Yeah, you can see on the pylon on the left, he is dropping. Right now it's showing him 13th or 14th right before the page changed. So definitely, whatever the case, it is taking his car to pit road.
That is so unfortunate. Yes, there he is. I believe he just had a connection issue, came down pit road, fixed it up. He's coming back out there. So luckily didn't fall from the server. Could still recover from this. Of course, we've seen him run very, very strong so far in his Elite Racing League career. Already a winner and a multi-time podium finisher. So he was hoping to get a better finish than what he's likely to get here tonight, but still early. You never know what could happen. But back at the front, Ethan Stanley, now a 2-second lead over Tyler Fode. Fode about a half-second ahead of R.C. Enerson. Then it's David Tooker. Hunter Smith back here in 5th, trying to hold off Scott Crump, another driver that's really stepped it up in road course racing over the past year or two. Put a lot of practice in for this event. Ethan Burrell just behind in 7th. Vincent Isabella there in 8th. Chad Frankenfield up to position number 9. He's up 5 spots, as is Tate Lytle in position number 10.
You know, one thing you did mention at the onset of our broadcast tonight was the strategy. And I think we may not be quite there yet, but we're probably closing in on the point where theoretically, I'm not saying this would be a good idea, but theoretically you could hit here and make it the rest of the way on fuel. Your tires would be very mad at you if you went the rest of the way from here. But I think we're starting to get in that range in the next lap or two where the pit window will theoretically open. And that's when we'll start to see some of these strategies play out. Who will take the undercut to try and get around a guy? Oh, that's a Leighton Norgard. That's a huge hit.
Oh.
He missed turn 1. He missed it by a significant margin.
So Leighton Norgard just said he was watching Chase Cabry disappear from the field and disconnect from the race, and forgot to brake.
Yep, it did just pop up on my feed that he has left the server, as well as Josh Adams. But yeah, you have to slow down for turn 1. As now we're looking at Gavin Hibbs off in the gravel.
Yeah, Hibbs unfortunately went for a bit of a ride there as well. Just unfortunate for some of these guys, stepping a little bit too far, but now able to recover a little bit. Kynan Jones continuing to have connection issues on that 85 machine. Hopefully it doesn't hinder those cars around him here, but just taking a look through the field, we have a battle, looks like, between Gerald Campbell and Jesse Racimus. Racimus coming up to the rear end of that 00 of Campbell, nearly sends it to the inside of that machine, but opts better of it, stays behind him as they're going to continue on here, duking it out for position number 12 on the racetrack.
And definitely, this is one of those battles that you know these guys are giving it all they have. They're looking for every opportunity, as you see them barrel off the final corner here. It looked like maybe that 13 car was trying to find a way to get around.
Yeah,
The
he's
70 of
definitely there.
Racimus.
Oh,
A little bit of wheel spin there for Racimus off of turn 1.
You know what? You mentioned it not too long ago, Zach, about the tires being angry, and what I just saw right there is all 3 of those drivers go for a little bit of a slide. So, gotta wonder if maybe the tires are starting to feel the effects of the race here.
You know, one thing, especially with this Xfinity car that we run into a lot at a track like this with a lot of low-speed corners, is you kind of have the desire, or maybe even the need, to drop down into first gear for some of these low-speed corners. As there we see
that is Andrew McCall and
McCall.
Jake Connor coming together. Take a look at that one.
Yeah, we'll see what happened here. Looks like maybe just got in a little bit too hot. Tries to stay off of Jay, just can't quite get away from him, and they make a little bit of contact and carry on. But yeah, these low-speed corners, you kind of have to weigh the balance between dropping down to first gear for the drive off, but also pretty much every time you do that, it upsets those rear tires more and more. And if you do that too often, by the time you get 15 or 20 laps into a run like this, it just makes it really hard to drive off the corner exit. It's just kind of a game you have to play throughout the whole run, playing that balance.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You don't want to overwork the tires, but you also kind of don't want to hang back too much, fall back to those drivers behind you, and potentially take yourself out of contention for a position. As we see Gavin Higgins here, he's got Brandon Key behind him. Higgins just went off the racetrack a moment ago and has now just gathered it back up here. Stanley leads over Fody. The drivers in the server now talking about what's going on down at New Smyrna Speedway. Zach?
Yeah.
A little bit distracted there. Yeah, we do love short track racing. And
yeah, hey, normally I'm down there this time of year, so.
I was down there 2 years ago, and the coolest racing experience I've ever had was standing in the infield at that racetrack, mere feet from the wall as the modifieds went around there. That is the coolest thing I've ever seen and been part of in my life.
There's something about the sound of the modifieds roaring down the front stretch at New Smyrna. That sound, however, for Gavin Hibbs, much less pleasant. He's clearly gone off at one of the fastest parts of the track. That's coming out of the final corner. Oh! Just snaps loose on him and then head on into that inside wall on the right-hand side.
Engine called it a day. Oh, man.
Yeah, that's, like I say, that's between, especially with the banking they've added to that corner named after two-time Indianapolis, I pulled a Rusty Wallace, Indianapolis 500 winner Ari Lyondike. You carry a lot of speed out of that corner, so if the car steps out like that, it's going to hit something really hard.
As we have a battle for the lead here, Tyler Fody nearly up to the rear end of Ethan Stanley, almost got by him a few corners ago. Now chasing him once again. They do have a lap car not too far up the track here. Not sure which car that is. We'll get a look at that shortly, but that could come into play. That is Mark Rebilas of Rebilas Photography. RebilasPhoto.com for all your photography needs as the Blue Egg car comes on the scene. Blue Egg, the marketing department for small businesses, and for Ethan Stanley as well, as here comes Tyler Fody.
Look at the run he's able to get here. Can he use it to get the lead as they head down into these S-curves here? Boy, that's so tight. It's really hard to explain just how difficult it was to stay off of each other there, but they've managed to do it, and now they'll go into the double right-hander here, and I don't know who's going to have the advantage here. Obviously, Fody's on the inside, but Stanley's going to be able to use that banking.
Got a little bit loose there.
A little bit loose. I think Fode's going to lead this lap, but Stanley was able to hang tough there on the outside as they head into turn 1.
Tyler Fode may have the advantage here, but RC Enerson has charged on scene, not as hard as he did in the Indy Lights race at Toronto a handful of years ago when he took flight. But he is here and ready to go. Third in line, David Tooker there as well. The Pro Edge boys ready to do battle with Lake Norman, as they typically do. Team rivals up here going at it.
Yeah, this is where I mentioned that strategy earlier. Here's where all these guys are trying to think, how much can I afford to push to try and get around a guy now? Do I want to undercut? Do I want to pay the price for older tires at the end of this deal if I do undercut? You're trying to make these decisions, oh, by the way, while racing 4 cars under a blanket here on 18-lap-old tires.
That's exactly it. You're on older tires. You're all under a blanket, like you said. You're dodging a little bit of lap traffic too here and there. And things are getting crazier as we advance through this race. 24 to go. We're about 15 in here so far. So these drivers obviously preparing for potential visits to pit road as Jeff Ryan goes off the racetrack in the Mountain Dew machine. We're going to jump back up to this battle that continues up front, but halfway point here at the end of lap number 19, Zach. So I would expect them to come down pit road probably right after that halfway point.
That's usually the go-to strategy, usually somewhere in that neighborhood of halfway, but I say that and RC Enerson's headed to pit road.
Yeah, that's a good call out right there. And interesting, it may be that these drivers will all follow suit here with Enerson. He's coming down first, the first taker, well, of the entire top 26. So everyone on the lead lap, except for RC Enerson now, is yet to come down pit road.
So what we'll have to watch here once he gets back on track, I mean, for these leaders, Fode, first, his fastest lap was a 1:42.9. His last lap was a 1:47.1. We're seeing a pretty huge fall off here. Obviously, he lost some time battling in that as well, but that's several seconds that RC Enerson's going to be able to make up as long as he gets some clean track as Ethan Stanley laying down rubber coming out of that corner.
Well, one thing that Ethan Stanley might actually have to his advantage here, Zach, is most of practice, he was just drifting. He was out there having a good time, trying to figure out how to go sideways around this entire racetrack. And, well, it might come into play here now side by side with David Tooker. Looks like Ethan Stanley going to get the advantage. Might go off a little bit too far on the left. Able to gather it back up. Now Tooker up to his rear bumper. Does David Tooker make a pass here, or does he follow suit with what his teammate did and possibly come down pit road here momentarily? We'll keep our eye on him as their other teammate, Ethan Burrell, just had an off-track moment. He's going to gather it back up. And now Tooker going to go side by side with Stanley. This is your battle for second. David Tooker with the advantage. Ethan Stanley fighting back. He's going to fall back in line. That's Carlos Acosta just up ahead of them there. Stanley goes for a slide as he locks down the brakes. This is going to get very tight amongst these guys.
And while that battle went on, Tyler Fode pulled 2 seconds ahead of these guys. You can see in front of him, that's Carlos Acosta, the lap car, as you mentioned. Tyler Fode opening up a nice little gap, probably the biggest lead we've seen tonight while that carried on.
Yeah, the only other driver we've really seen pull away so far is Fode's Lake Norman teammate, Ethan Stanley. And just an update on teammates, Ethan Burrell has followed suit after teammate RC Enerson, and he has worked his way to pit road. And I do just want to give a quick update here. William White had worked his way up inside the top 20 after starting at the tail of the field on pit road and has now called it a day. I do believe he is out of this one. Currently scored 5 laps down.
So this is the first lap where we're really going to get an idea what these tires mean for those guys like RC Enerson as we look now at the battle for third between Ethan Stanley and Scott Crump as they make their way through the S-curves.
Yeah, Crump coming back into play here, slowly and steadily working his way towards the front. Michael Hosek just went back off the racetrack in the same spot that he was off earlier, able to gather it back up now. Connor Thompson having an off-track moment. Nobody around them as Ethan Stanley, I do believe, has... Well, I think he might have just fallen out of the race. No, he's coming down pit road. There we go. Okay. He disappeared. We couldn't find him for a second, but there he is. He's on pit road, as is Tate Lytle in the Days Gone By EPI machine. He's going to come to pit road from position number 7.
And just Tyler Fode, this most recent lap, 146.9. RC Anderson got pretty clean track at the moment, 142.8, running in the 8th position. Actually up to 7th, it looks like, on the pylon.
Yeah, RC Anderson currently scored 7th, able to get by Tate Lytle that went down pit road, Ethan Stanley, Gerald Campbell also on pit road now. I don't believe he came into play when it came to positions, but he is currently scored 16th on pit road as we ride on board here with RC Anderson. You're just seeing some of the braking that these drivers are having to do here today. Another driver down pit road, Brandon Key, from that 20th spot as RC trying to charge his way back up towards the top 5. Should eventually work his way back up towards that lead once again.
Speaking of that lead, just in the past lap or so, David Tooker has made up a lot of ground on Tyler Fode as they're making their way towards the start-finish line. Will either of them pit this time? Yes, yep. David Tooker.
There's Tooker down pit road. He is going to visit his pit crew. Just 2 laps remaining here before that halfway point, by the way. It's currently Tyler Fode and Scott Crump the top 2. Hunter Smith in 3rd. Vincent Isabella 4th. And Chad Frankenfield briefly in 5th is now RC Anderson going to come up and take that position.
You know, it's funny. We love to give Chad a hard time on general principle, first of all.
Oh, absolutely.
Typically, Chad is one of those guys we're usually giving a hard time for burning up his tires and being one of the first guys who comes down to pit road on a long green flag run. Not the case so far tonight for Chad.
No, Chad Frankenfield actually doing a fairly decent job. He's about a second off of the lap time run by Tyler Fode last time, but so far so good for Frankenfield. Currently in position number 6. If he can make this work, we'll see what he can do in the second half, potentially just able to push it all the way to the end, which is the goal for everyone, of course. But I think it's all going to come down to who has more rubber on their tires at the end of this race.
Yeah, that's when we're really, no pun intended, the rubber will meet the road. Obviously, we've seen some of that this first run, but the second half of the race, you're going to have the differing strategies, and the intensity's going to ratchet up. We probably saw some punches pulled here as we approached halfway there, that we won't see that in the second half.
That's exactly right, as here comes Fode. He's going to pit a lap before the halfway point. Scott Crump going to take over the race lead here. Fode and Smith both coming pit side, so 2nd and 3rd get it slowed down, and they do head pit side. Dustin Durr now exiting pit road. He's going to come back onto the racetrack as your top 3 now. Scott Crump, Vincent Isabella, and RC Enerson. As Chad Frankenfield going to join his Little Eagle teammate Hunter Smith on pit road. Ethan Stanley, David Tooker back up to 4th and 5th respectively. Seth Rawls also coming down pit road. He's going to get passed by Jesse Racimus, Ethan Burrell, and Tyler Popp as they're going to round out the top 10 as we run here. Looking at your new leader, Scott Crump. We'll see if he stays out this time. Scott, even if he does come down pit road, should pick up that halfway point. So I would watch for that number 90 machine to make that duck down pit road here this time.
Yeah, I would expect him to pit. I wouldn't be surprised if Vincent Isabella also pits. The other thing to note here, I mean, because RC pitted several laps earlier, you can see the gap about 10 seconds right now over Ethan Stanley, but that gap's going to go away more than likely. Ethan Stanley's going to have those fresher tires. It's just a matter of can they erase that much of a gap over these final 19 laps? We'll find out.
Well, last time by, Ethan Stanley ran the quickest lap time of the race, a 142.3. That's in comparison to RC Enerson's 143.8. As Scott Crump gonna head pit road here, just ahead of Andrew McCall, just behind Michael Goodman, is traffic here on pit road. Halfway leader will be Scott Crump.
And a little bit of a tough break there for Crump to catch that traffic. I'm sure he was even looking at the relative and seeing, I might as well pit now to try and avoid some of this lap traffic. But sure enough, it went into pit road with him, as now we see a car slow coming out turn 13.
I believe it was Dustin Dewar and Carlos Acosta potentially coming to... Oh,
that's first off, that's not 13. That's the S curve, 10 and, or excuse me,
Carlos just came for a visit.
Yeah, okay.
But do they crash again? No. Interesting. All right.
All right, then.
Connor Thompson goes digging in the dirt. He's going to rejoin the field. RC Enerson, your new race leader here. Zach, is the distance between first and second 8.8 seconds here. I would expect Ethan Stanley to cut into that within the next handful of laps, as Dustin Dewar going to go dirt tracking once again.
Yeah, you can already see, I mean, we talked about a few, even just not even a lap ago, what that gap was, and already a pretty good chunk out of it. While Ethan Stanley's still got some of that feel-good in the tires, and he's able to run some 42s and 43s, he's going to be able to catch up pretty significantly to RC Enerson.
You're absolutely right, but as these drivers have a bit of separation now, we're going to just step away for our one commercial break of the show. When we come back, we'll bring you the conclusion of the Jack Vandeberg 100 here tonight in memory of Dustin Dewar's uncle, Jack Vandeberg. We'll be right back.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
The NASCAR Cup Series returns to Worldwide Technology Raceway on June 1st and 2nd, 2024. The time to get your tickets is now. For only $10 down, you can lock in your seats for an incredible weekend of family fun, featuring the Enjoy Illinois 300 and the Confluence Music Festival. Racing, music, camping, it all adds up to one amazing party. Go to www.raceway.com for the hottest ticket of the year.
We are back here at Zandvoort. It is the Jack Vandeberg 100 tonight. Currently leading the way, RC Enerson out front by about 8 seconds here over Ethan Stanley, who's in a bit of a battle here with David Tooker. That's your battle for second on the screen now. Stanley, the 92 machine. Tooker, the 19, as they duke it out for second and third on the racetrack. RC Enerson absolutely loving to see this on the relative, as these guys are going to pull each other back.
Yep, and they're going to have to work through some of this traffic as they do it. It looks like Brent Jones just ahead of them. You can see several cars that they're going to have to negotiate here in the next lap or two. Oh, and Brent Jones is off track.
Wow.
Brent
Jones.
He did a good job to manage that situation. I think he realizes he caught the 99 a lot quicker than I think he was expecting, and took evasive action to avoid causing more harm for the leaders catching up to him.
That's exactly right. As Mark Rebilas has an off track, he's going to gather it up. That's Tyler Fody going on by. Carlos Acosta also went off the track there. These drivers just trying to figure out where the pavement is.
When you're one of those guys, and I've been here for sure, you're not exactly super confident in your road course racing abilities, and you see these leaders coming up on you. The last thing you want to do is impact their race, right? So,
absolutely.
But at the same time, you have to be careful not to overreact. You still want to be predictable. You still want to, hold a steady line, as we see Jesse Racimas has come into contact with the barrier here. He's got to get it turned around.
Vincent Isabella having a little bit of an issue out there with somebody. We'll see if we can take a look at that. Not sure who his issues with. Oh, Andrew McCall, the 87 machine. Looks like the 87 may have just hit the brakes ahead of that 3 machine. A little bit of beef out there on the racetrack between those drivers.
That's kind of the opposite of what I was just talking about.
Absolutely.
Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
I think you do. I think you do.
I don't know. I don't know.
I totally understand what you're saying, and I've been there myself where, the leaders are running so much quicker that you just want to stay out of the way, not involve yourself in what's going on. But unfortunately right there, Andrew McCall doing a little bit of brake checking ahead of Vincent Isabella.
And it can be really tricky, especially you get into low speed corners like that. Probably, if he had the chance to do it again, it's worth just getting on the brakes a little bit earlier and, kind of just starting over, so to speak. Just let the guy go and settle in behind him. You might learn something and carry on.
That's exactly it here. 14 to go. R.C. Enerson. Ethan Stanley is good. He's going to go off the racetrack. He's going to gather it back up. Connor Thompson having a bit of an issue here. Looks like he's well off the surface, though.
I was about to say, he didn't even have the decency to do it within view of the camera.
Yeah, just trying to hide it. As we watch that 16 machine, see what happens to him. Too much beans.
And I'll admit, I turned some practice laps before we went live here.
Yes, you did.
That's really easy to do with the way the banking and the undulation is at this track. It doesn't have maybe quite as much elevation change, strictly up and down, as a Laguna Seca or even a Lime Rock. But there's so much the differentiation between the banking and these cars. Really, they're not really set up to turn right, period, but they're definitely not set up to turn right on bank corners. It's just kind of something you're not used to doing. The car doesn't really want to do it, and it's just really, really tricky to just get the car to do it. Forget doing it fast.
Yeah, we've heard some words from multiple drivers here heading into the event and throughout practice that, maybe the car setup wasn't necessarily the most agile. As we saw Jesse Racimas go around. Ethan Burrell had a moment as well.
that moment has allowed Hunter Smith to draw right up to Tate Lytle, or excuse me, Ethan Burrell. And yeah, so they're nose to tail as they come down the pit straight here.
They are going to go side by side.
And Hunter Smith's got to look inside through turn one. Oh, he's got to have him easily on corner exit here. Beautifully done by Hunter Smith.
Absolutely. As McIntosh goes off once again, he's going to gather it back up. Hunter Smith has done a nice job here tonight, currently in position number 6. Looking through the field, though, our biggest mover, I always like to point these guys out because they've worked their tails off to get where they currently are. That's Brandon Key, up 10 positions, started 28th, currently running 18th here with just 13 laps to go. Is Goody gonna do a bit more landscaping?
Nah, we're driving good.
Yeah, he's doing fine. Doing just fine out there. Look for a battle on the track, and it involves Dave Carpenter and Jesse Racimus. They're going to go side by side. That is for position number 15 on the racetrack.
Good showing there. I'll admit, maybe I just haven't noticed this one on Monday nights yet. It's weird seeing Jesse Racimus not in those blue and pink colors.
Blue and pink?
You know, he normally has like that blue and white and pink number 70 in the Truck Series or the Cup Series.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. He does have a few different paints that we see him in, as I believe Mark Rebilas just had another moment, but he's all right. He's going to continue on. But, yeah, Jesse Racimus has a red chrome truck that he's run a few times. We've seen him in different colored Grand National cars. A couple different... Oh, my gosh, as David Tooker takes the curbing like a champion right there, nearly ends up going off the racetrack as a result of it, but able to continue on here in P3.
I've noticed that a couple of laps. That particular curb through that uphill section, he seems to be attacking it much more aggressively than a lot of the other guys, and it hasn't bit him yet, so more power to it.
As Kynan Jones may be holding up Scott Crump a little bit here with his blinking, spooking him out a little bit. Crump asking for some blue flags to be shown.
I mean, we'll see here. Yeah, the blinking is definitely the hard part, right? If it weren't for the blinking, then it'd be hard for me to say Scott's close enough to ask for that pass, right? It kind of doesn't need to just move over and give him the spot, but it's definitely a sketchy situation for Scott to be in because of the blinking, and that's what kind of adds a different wrinkle to this situation.
As the 85 is told to let the 90 machine on through due to that blinking, kind of held Crump up a little bit there. Was charging towards the Tyler Fode machine, but now separated by quite a bit between those drivers. Is watching on the track here, Zach, looking for some battles. Everyone kind of separated here. Closest battle probably here, right here, Seth Rawls and Tommy Ryan for position number 11, and that's separated by about 0.7 of a second on the racetrack. Everyone else multiple seconds apart, just giving themselves some good spacing.
Yeah, I think what'll be interesting to see over these next few laps is I think we're still going to have a few more of these battles intensify as we see how these tires play out. We'll see how can Ethan Stanley continue to close in on RC Enerson. Will some of these other guys continue to make up ground, especially like somebody like Scott Crump, who waited especially long to pit. It'll be very interesting to see what we end up with in 10 laps time.
This is going to get very interesting because, yes, RC Anderson has the lead by 4 seconds, but that 4 seconds not too long ago was 9 seconds. So this is getting even tighter. 10 to go this time by for the drivers. And Jeff Ryan looks like he's going to have a crash, able to gather it back up. The drivers behind RC Anderson, so Ethan Stanley, David Tooker, and Tyler Fode all closing in on each other at this point. About 4 seconds separating Stanley and Fode, 3 seconds separating Tooker and Stanley, but that could all close up rather quickly, and we could be back to that 4 cars under a blanket situation here relatively soon. As 10 to go, and Stanley absolutely motoring now, cutting into that lead with each and every turn.
We saw him hit that curb again, like I was talking about. I mean, he is just attacking the apex of that corner. Is now Ethan Stanley working his way. Oh, now we are on board with Gavin Higgins pointed at a wall. That's turn 1, I believe.
I do believe so. I think he just went for a spin by himself in that 20 machine. I think he just cooked it a little bit too deep. Ooh, Chad got lucky. He could have got absolutely nailed by that 20 machine, but Higgins able to gather it back up. Just had to wait for a car or two to go by and able to continue on. So could have been worse.
Definitely could have been worse. It seems like for the most part, we with the exception of a Leighton Norgard, everybody who's had an issue there in turn 1 has been able to avoid having a real catastrophic incident so far.
You're definitely right on that, Zach. We saw the incident with Norgard earlier on where, well, he just forgot to brake and forgot to turn for the corner and drove it straight into the wall. He's well out of the race at this point, but what could have been for him, we'll never know. But luckily for everyone else, so far, seems like we haven't really had any major multi-car incidents. We've had, I think, one multi-car incident aside from the opening lap. Is Dusty gonna gather it up? Ooh.
Yes, he does.
Good old Dusty, able to gather it up as he created some dust on the racetrack. Let's watch Ethan Stanley right here. He's gonna go by Carlos Acosta.
So now this is Chad Frankenfield working his way around the track, currently running in the 10th spot, closing in on some lappers.
More lap traffic. Just taking a peek through the field, seeing what's going on out there. Dusty went off the track again. That same corner has been the catalyst tonight for Do Good, as both the Do and the Good have gone off in that same corner numerous times. Ty McIntosh, he's going to go digging in the dirt as well. This is a battle here, Zach.
So here we go. This is David Tooker at the 19 is running 3rd. Tyler Fode in the 40 running 4th. That's not nice. We need Tyler to get out of 4th spot.
That's a tongue twister.
Exactly.
Oh, contact! No! Oh no!
Oh. Tooker did a pretty good job of not hitting anything there.
We're
Fode
gonna have
apologizing
to
over the
take another
driver
peek
chat.
at that.
Oh, but now the tires are upset for Tooker.
Let's back that one up real quick. Just a little too deep. Sends Tooker for a spin. Like you said, Tooker able to gather it back up, but oh, he's driving a pogo stick out there, Zach.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's going to take him a little bit of time to get those rear tires back underneath him. They're going to be hot. They're going to be upset after that slide. Even as low speed as it was, it doesn't take much on this car to get those rear tires out of sort. So he's got to be really cautious here for a little bit before he goes back on the charge.
That is definitely something that Tooker's going to have to keep in mind here, is those tires are a little hot. He's got about 2.5 seconds behind Tyler Fode at this point, so not necessarily out of the realm of possibility for him to get back there to position number 3, but as of right now, he's definitely on the outside of that podium looking in as we watch Tyler Fode here. Got a car between them. That's Carlos Acosta. Once Tucker clears Acosta, could potentially set up for a nice run, but gotta watch Ethan Stanley and RC Enerson. Their lap times nearly identical over the last handful of laps, which if you're Ethan Stanley, that's not what you want to see.
We had a pretty big moment with Ty McIntosh that I have a feeling has brought an end to his evening.
Taking a look here at the 75 of Mac and Smash. Whoa!
Yeah.
Whoa!
Did the old grip roll once we got into the gravel.
I'm sorry, but if you get dizzy, folks, just hold on. Just watching McIntosh turns into Mac and Smash right there. Goes
And right here, his
over.
thinking, well, that was unfortunate, but it's fine. It is no longer fine.
Yeah, me no fine right here, Zach Evans.
Yes. He
That
is
was not
fine.
good. What a ride for Ty McIntosh. Wow. I was not expecting that when you said that he had a moment. I was expecting, okay, maybe he went for a slide, maybe he went off the racetrack. No, he went everywhere. Up and over.
Yep, that was. I was also surprised when I saw the replay on my end. I wanted to save that for you. It wouldn't have been nearly as fun if I had told you, hey, he flipped. Check it out.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't have been as fun, but that was absolutely wild right there. Poor Ty not having the result he wanted. This could turn into a battle right here, though. That's the 15 of Frankenfield, the 56 of Lytle battling for position number 9 on the racetrack. Always turns into a good fight between these two. As well, I don't know that it'll be too much of a fight. Tate battling that race car right now.
Yeah, it definitely looks like he has a handful in that 56 Toyota.
Ethan Burrell pointing out some blinking behind him by Kynan Jones. That's turning into a bit of a frightening moment for Brandon Key. You can see it right here, that 85 of Jones all over the rear end of the 41 of Key. By the way, the lead just about to go under 3 seconds now.
Ethan Stanley continuing to close in on RC Enerson. We're down to 6 laps to go. I don't know if he's gonna have enough time to get there, but he is definitely closing the gap.
He's trying everything he possibly can here. Might need a lap car or something to come into play here just to give himself that extra bit of gap between himself, or I guess less gap between himself and RC Enerson here, as Enerson currently up in the lead, has it by about 2.9 seconds over Ethan Stanley. What a shot these guys just had right there, almost out to the outside wall, as we are 5 to go. 5 fingers in the air for RC Enerson. And that's a lap car right ahead of him here. This could change things just a wee bit.
Yeah, you certainly hope the lap car will be cognizant of the situation, but as narrow as this track is, even if he does everything he can to facilitate the pass and stay out of the battle, they might just catch him in a bad spot. We'll have to see.
That is, of course, veteran road racer David Carpenter up ahead of RC Enerson here. So he definitely knows what to do when the leader's coming up on you on these road courses. The gap still hovering around 3 seconds between Enerson and Stanley. I just don't know if Ethan Stanley's going to have the time to get there. Now that lead over 3 seconds, and it's just getting tougher and tougher as we go on here, but you never know. Ethan Stanley, very experienced, very successful road racer. As you can see, that battle we watched earlier, Brandon Key and Connors Jones, just in the foreground of that shot. Let's see if they can close up here. Watch for any other battles on the racetrack. Closest is that Conan Jones Brandon Key battle. Otherwise, everyone still separated by a second or two out here. Actually, Tommy Ryan chasing down Seth Rawls. Rawls currently in 11th, trying to hold that position. But we'll keep our eyes up at the front with RC Enerson and Ethan Stanley as they just crossed the start-finish line. 4 laps to go.
It looks like that advantage is roughly stabilized for RC Enerson these last couple of laps. We'll have to see if maybe he's new. Certainly that's one advantage, right? When you do pit early, you know you're going to use the good off the tires quicker. You know the guy behind you is going to be charging, but he's had a lot of clean track, as now we see Tate Lytle going for an excursion. But RC had the liberty to kind of know how hard he's been pushing those tires to save something in case there was a battle at the end. And Tate just gets out of shape entering the S's there.
I believe that was Brent Jones behind him. As you can see the lead here, Zach, nearly 4 seconds again. And RC going to easily get by David Carpenter as Jeff Ryan has a crash on the racetrack. Another solo spin himself. Here comes Dusty Doer behind him. Goody gonna that same corner again for Do Good Motorsports. They just don't like that corner here at Zandvoort.
I feel like a lot of people are gonna be ready to leave this corner at Zandvoort when it's over tonight.
Yeah, and Elite Racing Network gonna take from Netherlands here for the Zandvoort race to tomorrow night. We're gonna head back to Charlotte for the Charlotte Dirt Track with the Pit Pass Network ARCA series. First dirt track in that series, so we'll see how that goes. Might be a disaster, but who knows? Tune in anyways. And I can say it might be a disaster because, well, I planned that race. So
I was about to say, if it is a disaster, we know exactly who to blame.
Me. Oh no, is Brandon Key and Kynan Jones going to be side by side again? He gonna have to try to get by the blinking 85. We'll see how that works out, but 3 to go. It's all RC Enerson. All he has to do is stay on the racetrack at this point.
Yeah, he's been able to stretch that lead back out here over the last couple of laps. I mean, RC is just so tough to beat at these road courses. No surprise to see him up front, and if he can just hang on.
This is the closest battle we have right here, by the way. Battle for 4th. David Tooker, Scott Crump.
So that is a battle for 4th. We'll see, can Crump get alongside here?
Scott Crump in 5th. David Tooker 4th. Crump looking a little bit stronger right here. We'll see if he can take advantage of this brief straightaway. Looks like Tooker going to have the preferred lane, but this one changes rather rapidly as Crump going to be right on that rear bumper. The battle for 4th continues, as does, well, not the battle for the lead, as they'll be coming to 2 to go this time by popsicle sticks in the air. It's 2 to go for RC Enerson, so we'll keep our eyes here on this 4th place battle.
Definitely Tooker got a little bit out of shape there out of the final corner. That transition so tricky. That's allowed Scott Crump to pull alongside him. Tooker taking the defensive line into turn 1 though. Can Crump pull the crossover here?
He's certainly trying. They have Connor Thompson right there. That might have changed it just a little bit. Tooker getting a little bit slideways. Zach side by side again.
And boy, Crump's going to have a huge run off the corner here. He's going to get by that slide by Tooker, really making the difference in that battle.
That was absolutely wild. Crump gonna clear now, a second already over David Tooker. He's checked out. Hunter Smith briefly off the racetrack going around the Connor Thompson machine. That's gonna work. Well, he's still in position number 6 with a 10-second gap back to Ethan Burrell. So he's in a bubble of his own. He can afford a slight mistake or two. Another battle here on the racetrack. Tate Lytle chasing down Tyler Pop. That is for position number 12. As the white flag gonna come out here momentarily for R.C. Enerson, looking for a victory here tonight at Zandvoort. One of the drivers we anticipated would be a front runner here this evening. A road course ace, R.C. Enerson. White flag is in the hand of Barney the Flagman, or his Dutch cousin, and now it's displayed. 1 to go for RC.
That lead has just continued to grow over these last few laps. There you see the look back to Ethan Stanley, some 5.5 seconds back, working through some traffic as well. There's Tyler Fody running into 3rd position. Scott Crump in 4th. You can see the gap he's already pulled on David Tooker back to 5th.
And then the entire straightaway back to Hunter Smith, who's having a great race in his own regard here tonight, currently in position number 6, as these drivers are going to come around and take the checkered flag, this time by 6.5. Oh, did something happen to Ethan? No, I think he just pushed too hard. 2 seconds back is Tyler Fody. Could potentially be a change here, but I think there's too many lap cars between these drivers to make anything happen at this time. Is Tate Lytle gonna crash once again on the racetrack? He was in position number 13. Will he lose it to Gerald? No, because Gerald just messed up. And Gerald, you can use that on the podcast, sir. You done messed up, buddy. As R.C. Enerson gonna come around, and he's gonna take the checkered flag here momentarily in Zandvoort.
One more time through these last 2 corners for RC.
Hopefully not his first mistake of the evening. That wouldn't be too fun, but oh, Chad just had a wreck. Oh no, he's gonna lose some spots, but R.C. Enerson gonna win here at Zandvoort. Here comes Ethan Stanley to take home 2nd, and rounding out the podium is gonna be Tyler Fody, as RC's already burning it down. We'll have to go back and see what just happened there to Frankenfield. He's gonna lose a couple positions on the last lap. Is it gonna be a solo spin? Yes, it is. Gets too much of the curbing, goes for a slide. I believe he'll lose the spot to Vincent Isabella. Actually, may be able to stay there, but anyways, it is R.C. Enerson, Ethan Stanley, Tyler Fody, Scott Crump, David Tooker, the top 5, then Hunter Smith, Ethan Burrell, Vincent Isabella. He just crossed the line right there. Chad's still working his way around. He should finish 9th, and Seth Rawls should be your 10th place finisher here. Good race by these drivers tonight on what was a race of unknowns. Is RC gonna drift it around the racetrack? He steps off the track.
If that's the only thing he messes up tonight, he'll probably be all right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But Zach, as we work to get our top 3 finishers in for an interview, we're going to step away real quick. When we come back, we'll talk to the top 3 finishers, R.C. Enerson, Ethan Stanley, and Tyler Fody. Don't go anywhere. This is the Elite Racing Network.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
The NASCAR Cup Series returns to Worldwide Technology Raceway on June 1st and 2nd, 2024. The time to get your tickets is now. For only $10 down, you can lock in your seats for an incredible weekend of family fun, featuring the Enjoy Illinois 300 and the Confluence Music Festival. Racing, music, camping, it all adds up to one amazing party. Go to www.raceway.com for the hottest ticket of the year.
And we are back here at Zandvoort, just wrapping up tonight's race. It is RC Anderson, your winner, followed by Ethan Stanley and Tyler Fody. And I believe Zach Evans has caught up with our third place finisher, Tyler Fody.
Tyler, first off, congratulations on the third place run. Really, tonight was a pretty incredible race, especially in that first half between some of the best road course racers we have to offer here in Elite. What was it like trying to work around this track that really a lot of these stock car guys just haven't turned laps on before tonight?
Yeah, I bought the track like 5 minutes before the practice started, so it was all new to me. I did not think I belonged up there. I was a little surprised to get pole, and it was only a matter of time there before the real ringers there with Stanley and RC started figuring it out. But it was tough, dude. Every single corner was a different kind of challenge, and the car was super, super loose. So everyone was having to baby the rear tires there. Yeah, I mean, it was a long one. It was pretty grueling. I think we went a little bit too long on the overcut there. I was trying to have better tires. I knew that was my only shot, really, but really, I went a little too long, and Stanley and RC really figured the track out the second half there. So I am happy to at least come away with a third.
You mentioned, one of being a track that you admit you like me bought it right before we went live here today. What was probably the most challenging part of the track for you?
Yeah, probably the whole first sector. Really, there aren't too many braking like markers around here. So everything's kind of by feel, and especially with the traffic, sometimes you'd forget, where you were and then go a little deeper than normal. But the whole first sector, really, after turn one, you had the bank corner, which it's super skatey trying to get in there. And then the really high speed S's, it feels, I mean, it's wider than one car, but it feels like it's one car wide. Like there's no room to do anything. And it's always on edge. So really, that whole first sector was a handful.
Absolutely. Before we let you go, Tyler, I want to give you the chance to thank any sponsors and give any shout outs you like on your third place run.
Yeah, well, obviously the guys at Lake Norman. This may be the best road course result as a team I think we've ever had. Stanley obviously doing what he normally does there, got second. Scott, I don't know how many laps he put in here, but when I saw he was behind me, I was pretty surprised. So huge shout out to him for getting a top 5 on a road course. And then probably an even bigger shout out to Vince and Isabella starting 10th and maintaining that and coming home 8th. So big shout out to all those guys. JD Designs for being on my car and also painting all of our cars. Jonathan Cutlip does a great job. Shout out to you guys for being up here in the booth. And I do want to apologize to Tooker again. I got in a little deep there and messed his race up a bit, but no, super happy with the result and looking forward to next week.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. Congratulations. And we'll get a little bit of time off before we see you again here in the Grand National Series, but good luck here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, appreciate it.
That was Tyler Fody, your third place finisher here tonight. Now let's have a word with Ethan Stanley, the runner up here tonight. Ethan, you came home just a little bit short tonight. What more did you need to get up there and battle it out with RC Anderson at the end?
Yeah, I was gonna pit a little earlier than I did, and if I did do that, I think I would have been able to catch him towards the end there. Just a bit of bad strategy, bad luck on my part.
Yeah, unfortunate luck there for you. Obviously, we saw you running up front. You were very strong all night long, as you usually are on these road courses. But I have to ask, Zach asked Tyler earlier what the biggest challenge was of this racetrack. I want to hear your opinion on that as well. What was the biggest challenge for you here tonight?
Just saving rear tires. Coming out of your more banked corners, you just light up the rears, and it's really hard to keep them in one piece. They just kind of fall apart. I screwed up towards the beginning too, running too much rear brake bias, so kind of stacked my issues on top of each other. But I had a pretty solid race.
You definitely did have a solid race here tonight. Obviously, a pretty good start to the season as well for you. Now looking ahead to next week we're off, and then we come back in 2 weeks' time. We're gonna head to Pocono. What's your outlook for that one?
Home track, so big fan of it. Gonna try to run top 10. I don't think I got quite enough pace for a win there, but we'll see how it goes. Maybe I can get something done.
Well, I think this is an obvious question, but what's trickier, the Triangle or Zandvoort?
I'd say the Triangle. Really.
Oh, I was not anticipating that actually, but interesting to hear that from you. And before we let you go here tonight, any shout outs you want to give, sponsors you want to thank for making this happen?
Yeah, just big shout out to Blue Egg Marketing and JD Designs for making the car. Big shout out to you guys for doing the broadcast. Big shout out to all the guys at Lake Norman. We all had pretty decent finishes tonight. Just shout out to everybody that makes the league run.
Well, congratulations on the runner-up finish here tonight, Ethan, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time at Pocono. Have yourself a good night, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, Bobby.
And now the man of the hour, standing by with you, Zach Evans, the race winner, RC Enerson.
RC, congratulations on the win. And no surprise to see you in victory lane here at the road courses, but maybe something that we were a little bit surprised here in the booth. Your winning move, pitting, kind of going for the undercut there as early as you did. Clearly it paid off. What kind of helped make up your mind as far as the pit strategy for this one?
The biggest thing is just so difficult to pass on this track. I mean, it's all the corners that have straightaways behind them. There's just not a lot of room for a run. It's just so difficult to get by. I mean, I felt like I was quicker than Fody in the first run. I felt like I was quicker than both of them, and it's just so difficult. I mean, I even doored Fody in turn one, just braking too late trying to get by, and it was so difficult. I was like, the only way I'm going to do this is if I pit early, hopefully get that one lap, because I felt like they were going to follow me the lap after. I know Fody was going to stay out for the playoff point, but I figured Ethan would follow after me. And then, a little bit of luck too. I think Tooker was passing Ethan through the last corner through the inside, so Ethan could not make it to the pits. So I delayed him another lap. So when he came out, it was like 12 seconds. And my only goal with just how bad the tire dag was, I mean, you're looking at the 10 laps into a run, you're running like 5-6 seconds off the pace. It was super difficult, but I was like, if I can just get myself up there and save a ton of tire, I feel like I'll be able to be good on used tires, and it was thankfully the right move.
You know, we talked about that degradation, especially when you did pit, because then suddenly you were on the fresh side of that while chasing down guys, literally, like you mentioned, 4 or 5 seconds slower. But on the flip side of that, especially with all these low speed corners here in this stock car, how difficult was it as you got on those older tires to not step across the edge and to save tires for the end of the race when you knew those fresher tires were going to be coming after you?
It's so difficult. I think this might be the hardest road course race that I've done in Elite by far. The tire dag was really hard. This track is super technical. It was really difficult not to make a mistake. I mean, my biggest hats off is to all these people that are not real road course racers, like driving on road courses all the time. Like, well, I saw when I loaded in the lobby, a lot of them still have like C class, D class, or even rookie road license because they don't race it. And for them to even be able to finish this race is astonishing. I struggled. I know a bunch of us. Maybe we were just talking in the waiting room. Me, Ethan, and Tyler. Is like this was a struggle for a road course with tire dag. I mean, you're just trying your best to keep the car under you and not slide it around. And I don't know. I kind of gambled with that, hoping that I could put myself in track position and save some tire, and it just ended up working out. I think me, Stanley, and Fody, and even Tooker had pretty equal chances at winning this. I just think I picked the right call on going in 2 laps prior to anybody else of those 4.
All right. Before we let you go, RC, I want to give you a chance to give any shout outs and sponsor plugs here after your win.
Oh yeah, of course, you guys up here in the booth. You guys already know this. I say it every time. I love going back and like watching the replays. I get to see all the stuff that didn't happen through my cockpit. And you guys do an awesome job commentating. I mean, I've had plenty of people ask me if this is real, like I'm actually racing somewhere at 10 o'clock at night. And then obviously Chad, who runs all these leagues, he does a phenomenal job to put up with all of us drivers. I mean, there's like 200 people in total throughout the leagues. It's a lot to do. It's basically a full-time job on top of his already full-time job. So he does an amazing job of giving us a place to go every night and get to do the sport we love. Obviously, Lucas Oil School of Racing, all over every single one of my cars. And then Pro Edge Racing. Those guys are awesome. I mean, we spend so much time in Discord even when we're not racing and just joking around. It's so much fun to be with those guys, and they're all really quick. So especially when we get on those ovals, man, they'll give me a run for my money for sure. It's super difficult to compete with these guys. Yeah, I think that's it.
Maybe I need to go to that Lucas Oil School of Driving and figure out how to even get remotely close to you at these road courses. But congratulations, RC, and we'll see you here in a couple of weeks at Pocono.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
That is RC Enerson, your race winner here tonight. I sound like Bugs Bunny right there. But
Witty hit Witty.
What a race tonight, Zach Evans. Why don't we get some final thoughts from you, my friend, after what was a fantastic evening here in Zandvoort?
I think RC really hit the nail on the head there with his kind of parting commentary there. It was such a difficult race for the guys who are good at road courses. So imagine how difficult it would have been for people like you and me if we were out there, Robert. Really a great show by all these guys to have a fairly clean race, all things considered. Certainly there were some incidents, were some mishaps. Unfortunately, we spotlighted a few of them on the broadcast, but by and large, really hats off to all these guys for learning this unique challenge, this combination of the stock car at Zandvoort, and putting on a pretty good race tonight.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better myself. We definitely have to congratulate everyone that was able to finish the race here tonight, and even the guys that just started it, made a couple laps. This was a tough track. Most of these guys never even heard of this, don't even know how to say this racetrack, and were able to put on one heck of a show. Congratulations to RC Enerson, and a special shout out to Pro Edge Racing, team victory number 100 here tonight. That is a huge milestone for that team. First of many, the first 100 of many still to come. Congratulations to Lake Norman drivers Ethan, Stanley, and Tyler Fody as well on rounding out the podium. On behalf of all of us here at the Elite Racing Network, thanks for joining us here tonight for the Jack Vandeberg 100. Once again, our condolences going out to Dustin Doer and his family on the sudden loss of his uncle this weekend at the age of 83. Our thoughts are with you each and every day, and we want to thank everyone for tuning in here tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night for the Pit Pass Network ARCA Series live from Charlotte Dirt. Be sure to join us. We'll see you